Hey guys, Apef here, and welcome to my look at all my old phones. Now, some of these are my parents', such as this Motorola StarTAC. It's, I always believed it was the first flip phone. I'm not sure, but it's a flip phone. It does all the cool things. Now, what was cool about this was I didn't even know my parents had these until I was like 9 or 10. My parents wouldn't let me have a cell phone. I remember seeing them on TV and always being upset my parents wouldn't let me have one. They pulled out this box where they had 3 of these. The batteries were all interchangeable and it was all kind of cool. But what was crazy was when I messed around with it long enough, it actually could still make collect calls, which means the person you're calling has to pay the bill, essentially. Now they probably don't work at all because the old cell phone towers are shut off, but that was my first flip phone, you could say, even though it wasn't hooked up to a network. I would love to show you guys the menus and stuff, but I can't seem to find the charger. But from what I remember, it still worked last time I messed with it. Now, the oldest cell phone my mom had that I can remember is this Motorola. It's just a standard flip phone. I always thought it was kind of cool because it's all stainless steel. Once again, though, I can't get it to turn on, but when it used to turn on, all the keys lit up. And I don't believe this had anything other than some cool ringtones. The antenna comes out of this thing, and it had like a pause and play button on the top, which I thought was cool, but my mom never put music on it, so that was kind of pointless. Then I talked my parents out of leaving Nextel, and my mom got this Verizon TV phone. I talked them out of it, or I talked them out of Nextel so they would go to Verizon so I could watch TV on my mom's phone. And this was really cool. You could watch a freaking Nickelodeon wherever you went. But within a year it started acting buggy and she got rid of it. It was cool at the time. I don't know if it still works. It probably wasn't a 4G phone, so there it goes. Now on my dad's end of things, this was the phone that I remembered him having all my childhood. It was a Nextel Motorola phone, and this thing was a beast. So obviously it has this cool front screen. It has like an MP3 player button thing. The reason my parents even stuck with Nextel was because they used to have this thing that was like a walkie-talkie where you could just press on the side to immediately call someone, and they used that while skiing and whatnot, so that's probably why he had this. Another cool thing is it has this button, and it's a switchblade, essentially, a automatic flip phone. Everything worked fine with this until the last time I just tried to charge it and I couldn't get it to turn on, which was really sad because it had a version of Lego Star Wars on it. So when my dad switched to a new phone and gave me this one just to play around with, I used to take this on school field trips to play Lego Star Wars on this flip phone. And I was the talk of the 3rd grade. He ended up switching to this Palm Pixie, which he absolutely destroyed. This was the first smartphone my family owned, and it had a touchscreen and actually could play games like Angry Birds and stuff, even though I think it had its own OS. The rubber on the back kind of deteriorated, and the reason he even got rid of it, I love this keypad, by the way, but the reason he got rid of it was he sat on it one night at a concert at Disney World, and after that the screen wouldn't work. I ended up taking it apart and getting the screen to work. The problem was, after I got it to turn back on, for some reason the screen always displayed upside down. And it wasn't because I put in the screen upside down, so that's dead. I just have it for the memories, I guess. Around the time I was 11, I think, I was finally allowed to get a phone, and I got this Samsung phone. It had a cool little screen in the middle of it that told the time, and I put a picture of my cat as the background to that screen. It had a camera. Very slim, very just sleek design. This was in like 2009, 2008, one of those years. So everyone else had moved on to different things or iPod Touches, but I had this. The only game I had on it was a, like, hunting game, and I believe there was another game, but I can't remember it. It's a shame because I also couldn't get this one to turn on either. I plugged it into the charger and it would just flash white. I think the reason these things won't turn on is because they used flash memory, and just over time the flash memory degraded, and now essentially they have no OS or no... They're hardware without a brain. Luckily, the next year in 6th grade, so 2009, I got this Motorola, whatever it's called, and everything about this is nostalgic to me. But the good news is it turns on. So now I can actually show you guys this. My parents got me this because they went to the Verizon store and said, we don't want to give our kid a smartphone because we don't want him texting people. So, because for some reason Fox News told them texting is the worst thing ever, but making phone calls is okay. So what is a good phone for video games? It's searching for a network, but it's not going to find any. They asked them what's a good phone for video games that isn't a smartphone, and they showed them this. I have no idea why, because it plays all the same games as a normal flip phone. But, okay, let me show you around. Most of the phones I've shown you had this same kind of OS, where, you know, contacts on the right, messages on the left, press center to bring up the menu, and you had this menu. Sometimes the icons were different, but whatever. If you pressed up, it would bring up an Internet Explorer. The problem with that is most of us didn't have data, so if you did that, it would charge your family an arm and a leg. I could, for some reason, have like a motto. So my old motto used to be fight for the PS3. It was like my comment on PlayStation Network and stuff. Because in 6th grade, I was bullied a lot for not having Xbox 360, so I became like a militant PS3 fanboy. And I loved mags, so that became my lock screen. Anyways, because my parents said this was good for video games, they let me buy any game I wanted. It's loading because I have a ton of games on here. These extremely old, like flip phone and track phone games. So, I have no idea what to even show you guys because I had so many. I at one point bought BioShock for this, and it was really cool because it was like a 3D BioShock recreation on a phone like this, but I deleted it immediately because it scared my little 12-year-old brain. So I don't have that, and I have no idea how to get it back, and I don't know which one of these games is really going to be that impressive. These old Call of Duty games were kind of interesting, so I guess I'll show you that. Okay, please switch to other screen mode. This is the cool feature of this phone. It has a trackpad. Now, as I said, my parents wouldn't let me text, so this was entirely useless. When they handed this to me, I thought that meant they were now announcing to me I was allowed to text, but I was not. I might have to reset this game because it doesn't seem to be loading. I'm gonna leave the sound off just because it's gonna be really loud otherwise. This company made like all these old games. But yeah, it was a real shame I couldn't text back then because this would have been the perfect phone to do it on. I don't remember the controls. Let's just get it going so I can show you guys these fantastic graphics from 2008. So we're in Vietnam in 1967, and some things are happening. Press D is okay. Some things are still happening, and a lot of things are happening. Alright, these are the graphics. Yes, this is Call of Duty. It is so weird, and one of the weirdest things is that all these Call of Duty games kind of share this graphic style, but some of them have slightly different controls. But I believe my favorite was the MW2 they had made. This is kind of just a tutorial, but basically you just walk around as these dudes, and when you see an enemy, you hold the OK button and you shoot in their direction, and then they fall down. And everyone has a health bar above them, and it slowly replenishes like Call of Duty does. And when you get near cover, that's what this guy's gonna say, when you get near cover, you automatically take cover behind it, and then you can pop up and shoot people, and that's basically the game. But I just wanted to show that off because I don't think a whole lot of people have experienced Call of Duty on an old phone. For some reason this keeps resetting every time I change camera angles. So if you guys would like to see any of these games, please leave a comment and maybe I'll make a video on it. It's just most of them follow kind of that graphical style, like Crazy Taxi is Crazy Taxi, but it's that above view with tiny little sprites. Gangster Miami is Gangster Miami, but also that above view, kind of like the original Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, so if I'm missing something, like if one of these is really impressive, please remind me, because I, for the life of me, can't remember every single one of these. Now, this was also the first phone where I took a ton of pictures, so that's kind of interesting. It was interesting looking back through these pictures. This was my cat, Pepper. If you have followed my channel for a long time, you might remember her. I had started a channel with her and my other cat, Eric. What was it? It was like My Crazy Cats or something. This was footage from a monster truck show that I was at. That is a guy on a dirt bike in the air. And I think that was... oh, here's Eric. Yes, majestic. This was, I think, at the Nickelodeon Hotel. I didn't realize I must have had this phone for quite a long time. Here's a password to a Game Boy game so I remember how to get back to where I was. And then here are my cats sleeping on my parents' beds. Oh my gosh, this was when a friend figured out how to put Mario on his calculator. I also want to show off the VCast music. Maybe this will spark some of your guys' memories. Never mind. I guess it's not gonna load. I could have sworn I could load... maybe it's locally on my phone. Yeah, it is. My music. Okay. So, I actually purchased Replay from Verizon so I could have it on my phone. That was what 12-year-old me thought was peak music. That and Know Your Enemy by Green Day, which, I mean, that's fair. Oh, I completely forgot to mention, a major feature of this phone was that it had a touchscreen. Isn't that cool? Too bad none of the games utilized it. I guess I'll turn it off and show you guys the off-screen, which is the same as the on-screen. From there, I moved on to my favorite phone of all time. I was either 13 or 14, and that summer I saved up all summer long to get the Sony Xperia Play. I remembered hearing about this and was like, I need to get that. You know why I needed to get it? Because it had freaking PSP controller right underneath it. That's so cool, and it even has the triggers on the back. I loved the style of it because it was like piano black with chrome on each side. They just don't make phones look this cool anymore. Sadly, mine's really scuffed up because I put a phone case on it that actually just scratched it up. I don't know why. That was the early days of phone cases. But we also had buttons. I miss these being on Android phones. I don't know why we don't get them anymore. The back home menu and search. They also have a cool volume control button on the side. And I bought this for like $400, and literally 2 months after I got it, it dropped to $200. And then Sony kind of just gave up on it, which is such a shame because, like I said, it's my favorite phone. Now, it does turn on, but the reason I even ever stopped using this phone was it just started having a ton of problems. So it will turn on, but the touchscreen won't work like 90% of the time for some reason. And it won't read my microSD card, which you needed in order for any of the games to work. It would not store like any games in the internal memory because it just only had like half a gig for the OS. But man, this whole thing's nostalgic. Let's see, can I get it to unlock? No, I don't think it's going to unlock, which is a shame. Luckily, it will unlock if I do this, so we can look around this a bit. The old YouTube app was so stylized back then, and I loved it. See, when I first started uploading to YouTube, I would be using this YouTube app, and seeing my videos pop up in this YouTube app made me feel so, like, legit, like I was a member of the YouTube community. Sadly, I don't think it'll open, no, but you can see part of it. Will music open? No, it still won't recognize the SD card. Will the camera open? It won't show you, but it'll show you what it looks like. So, here are the games. I still had Mind Builder back then because it actually utilized these controls. And a lot of these games are the games that came with the phone, including The Sims 3. I used to use this snowboard app because if you had that same game on your iPad, you could use this to control the iPad, which was pretty cool. But yeah, that was the good old days when I first had my very first smartphone that I went out of my way to buy, and I'd probably still be using it if it still worked. I really wish Sony would create an Xperia Play 2. Sadly, that's like all I can show you from this thing, since it doesn't really work anymore. It just like I can navigate the menus and that's about it. I could have sworn I had iFunny on here somewhere. Oh, and the old widgets, jeez. And there's my old PS3 Friends app, the flashlight. I also couldn't text using this phone for like the 90% of the time I had it. My parents finally let me text like the last week I had this phone. But anyways, oh, I'm gonna have to slide this up to turn it off. But yeah, that was a very nice phone. Really loved it. You can see it in some of my oldest videos, especially in the bloopers. Sometimes I'll be holding on to it. But eventually it died, as you could see. I can't use that anymore. Also, it doesn't really like to charge without me like vigorously wrapping the power cable around it. I think something's wrong with the port. And the headset plug also had the same issue where I would have to like finagle the headset around. So I eventually moved to an iPhone. So I don't know if I'll be able to get this working again. This was my iPhone 5. It's an original iPhone 5, you can tell because it still has the square down there. This phone case is really sticky. It's one of those ones that just fell apart. I kind of got this like right as I, well, I'll get into that in a moment. I showed off my other iPhone 5 in a previous video, but this was the one I had originally. Loaded up with, as you can see, apps. All the good old social apps, if you remember them. I have a whole video about iPod games, so I'll just link that or something. We have the original Flappy Bird, hooray! Anyways, this one just started like going bad in 100 different ways. So like the lock button didn't work, so I had to use this to control the lock button. I forget how to even use it. How do I lock this thing? Device? Lock screen. Okay. And then you press that. Okay, so that's how I used to be able to get into this. And I'd have to plug it in to get that to work. And there was no flashlight app back then, so you'd have to use like an unofficial flashlight app, because this was just supposed to be used as a flash for the camera. That was my original iPhone 5, but because it started having so many issues, I got an iPhone 5, 5S, and I used that as well. And these two, I believe like this was peak Apple right here. Like most people had an iPhone 4, but the iPhone 5 to me just seemed perfect. Like it did the full widescreen. It didn't max out the length of your thumb. You could hit everything. It was the perfect distance. I could type on this blindly because it was just the perfect size to do everything. I wish they would make an iPhone this size again, complete with the headset jack, because the only reason I switched to iPhone was because I was obsessed with using iTunes, and I still use iTunes, which is why I have a collection of iPods everywhere, because I love using it to manage my music and just owning my music to start off with. But anyways, because these things just worked and I liked the size and I liked all their features, I used these iPhone 5s for 5 years. I kept them forever, and I have a lot of memories associated with them, going through high school, being out of high school, and just like this being my only outlet to the world essentially. So I'm glad they still work. I don't really know what to do with them anymore though, so I thought I'd show them off in a video, so if one day they die, at least I have evidence of their existence and kind of, I guess, what they meant to me, because they were a big part of my life. And like I said in a previous video, a friend I used to have drew this for me for my YouTube channel. Like I'm playing games there, and this is me and Jack, as Jack in Jak and Daxter, me riding a pony, and me awkwardly standing in front of a camera. That is my life. Well, it still is my life. Not much has changed, I guess, but yeah, I don't really know any of the people I used to message back then, which is a shame. I tried reaching out to some of them, and some of them don't even seem to remember me, so that's weird. But after that, I disappointed my parents by going back to Android, because, hey, I've loved my Xperia Play. I was waiting for the Xperia Play 2 to come out, but it never did. might as well go back to Android and try to like move on from high school was my thinking, but instead I kind of just went right back to organizing the phone as if it was an iPhone and downloading my old Xperia Play Lite app, and you know, I had a few apps and that was pretty much it. And yeah, from there I kind of started getting bored with phones because they were all this. They didn't have manual buttons to navigate anything. At least Android has like these digital buttons, but like everything since this, which was like 2017, 2018, has just been a black rectangle, you know? Like they all look the same. You could confuse this with anything. I mean, it was cool that they started doing wide angle lenses, I guess, but like it was all the same and started frustrating me. So I waited for a while, and then I started seeing these flip phone things come out where they had dual screens. And this one specifically, the LG G8 ThinQ DualScreen model, was the one I went with. And I have a whole video up on this. I unboxed it or whatever, and so you can see it in action. But I still have it, and the guy at Verizon was like trying to not sell it to me because it wasn't a Verizon phone. It was a unlocked phone because I wanted a smaller phone. That was another thing. This thing is still bigger than this phone, and I thought this phone was too big because, again, I just want my iPhone 5 back. So once again, it's just an Android. It's just a black cube, but at least it had this cool feature where I could multitask on multiple screens. And because I feel like because of the negative energy produced by the Verizon guy, because I've never cracked a phone screen, I've only like chipped this screen protector. Up until this point, I'd never broken a screen. He was like, "You're going to break that screen because you can't put a case on your phone." And sure enough, this screen got cracked, which was very frustrating. This was also a waterproof phone. If I think maybe if it was outside of the dual screen. So that kind of, I don't know, that just really disappointed me, and it's probably because they now round the glass screens. So if you just hit the edge of it, it shatters, because that's great phone design, right? The old iPhones, they're flat, they're not rounded around the edges. It's really hard to break this screen. This phone has been thrown down the stairs on accident, but like, they don't break. The new phones, they all break. So anyways, after that, I went on eBay and got another LG G8 ThinQ Plus whatever thing, and this can fit in here too, and I used it in here for a while with the dual screen. Now I use this as just kind of my internet surfing phone. Like it's not hooked up to any services. I just use it as a phone. But once again, you know, it's just a black rectangle, nothing fancy about it. It runs Android. Hooray! So then I really was desperate for something unique again, because as you've seen, we've gone through all these phones. There was something different about every one. And now we're just looking at a pile of, you know, rectangles that got kind of progressively bigger. So then I got the Jelly Star. Y'all might remember this because I did an unboxing of it a couple years ago. I'm still using it. I purchased a new phone that I also did an unboxing of, but I later returned it just because it weighed a ton and I didn't like having it in my pocket. So I'm still using this tiny little $200 Chinese phone. It runs, I think, the latest version of Android, and it just does everything I need it to do. Like it's tiny, but it has character. It has these LED things on the back of it, which add to the character. It's blue, and not only that, unlike any phone that seems to come out nowadays, has a heads-up plug, has an infrared light that I can use to control any television I want, and it charges using Type-C, so it's standard and everything. Okay, I cleared out my notifications so I don't end up like doxing my friends. This is my latest phone, and it does literally everything. I can still, like, I downloaded F-Droid, and then I used that to download some different music apps so I'm not being stalked, and I can have my entire iTunes library on here, although as you can see, some songs don't sync properly, but most songs do. Let's get out of the numbers. Okay, all these songs synced properly. Again, that's kind of why I liked iPods, just because they worked. I didn't have to change the formats of everything. But that is my entire smartphone or cell phone collection that of phones that I've actually like used for something. Now, there is one phone that I bought specifically to show off on YouTube, and I never got a chance to, and it was this. This is a smartphone I got from a thrift store for $5. Yes, and at the time, that was a really big deal. Like, oh my gosh, I got a smartphone for $5. It runs like Android Jelly Bean and has like 500 megabytes of RAM, so it's not very useful for anything. But I really wanted to make a video titled like a $5 smartphone or something, but sadly, never got around to it, and it's kind of pointless now because once again, it's, you know, another black rectangle inside a case. But the cool thing about this black rectangle is since it's kind of old, you know, it still had like buttons in a headset plug, and it's about the same size as an iPhone 5, so you can like use it without dual handling this tablet-sized thing. And this is the small model. They had another model that was bigger. Why are phones getting gigantic? It's driving me nuts. Go back to these tiny things, please. So maybe that's the point of this video. To show off some old tech, but also to beg phone companies, please, I just want a normal-sized phone back with a headset plug, because I'm not buying your Bluetooth crap. Anyways, I have had to talk really fast because my camera has only had 30 minutes worth of memory on it. So I hope this video wasn't too annoying for you guys to watch, but I hope you guys enjoyed me kind of going through tech through the ages. And if you are looking for a modern phone that has a headset plug and isn't longer than this giant thing, Sony has one phone that's about the size of this, that has all the features of this, but it came out like in 2022 or 2023, so it has updated specs, unlike this, which came out in 2019 maybe? So if you're looking for a phone that's kind of like this, maybe go Sony, because LG doesn't make phones anymore. They just make refrigerators. And a few other things. I don't have that purely because Verizon doesn't accept Sony phones, and welcome to the LG G8. Apparently my camera just died, so as I was saying, the reason I don't switch to Sony is because Verizon has me on a really cheap family plan with my parents. I'll probably go with like Mint Mobile, because then I can actually select like a variety of different phones and just bring it to them instead of being stuck with Verizon's phone options, which is basically just Apple, Samsung, Motorola, and that's pretty much it. Oh, maybe Google Pixel. Yeah, that's pretty much all you can get with Verizon, it seems, and none of them offer a headset plug anymore. And yes, I am dying on that hill. I know most people are just like, fine, I'll use Bluetooth or a little dongle, but I tried all that, it just annoyed the heck out of me. So I'm sticking with this, and I'm sticking with my cheap little Android phone with its UV light flashing me in the face, until someone offers me a proper phone. But if you guys like this rant of a video, and, you know, this variety of random phoneage down here, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'm sorry if I talked your ear off, but, you know, that's kind of why I made this video, was to talk your ear off. So, if you have listened this far, I guess you don't hate my voice, but if you've listened this far in full of rage and are going to comment about how much you hate my voice, thank you for providing me with enough watch time to boost my content. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.